What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode on Proven Power Cycles. For those who don't know me, I'm Eric. We got Lewis over here. I'll show you him in just a second. He is getting the ZX-14r that is from South Carolina. This one had an engine rebuild. We've done a couple little minor mods to this motor now, but for the most part, this is an OEM rebuild. Now, this bike has a few mods done to it, like we said, but for right now, all we really want to do is just kind of get it fired up while we're waiting on the last components. So here we got Lewis. So Lewis is finishing up. We're just kind of hooking up a battery real quickly to, again, just kind of turn over the motor. So clearly, now I want to point these things out while he's working. We don't have a cooling system. We have no radiator, no cooling lines. We have no chain, no sprockets, but we got we have a swing arm installed. We need to get chain and sprocket. Again, the bike needs a handful of things, clearly. But it doesn't even have the muffler on it right now. But the biggie that we really wanted to do, again, before we proceed and get any deeper into the bike, we just want to make sure that the motor is okay, that it sounds okay. Everything is basically performing, or at least starts up like it should. Now, this is an older battery. There are some things in here that, again, this is first startup. We haven't filmed anything. We haven't started it. This is quite literally the first startup. Sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, first startup, and it's like the 20th one. So this is truly going to be the first startup. So we'll see what happens. It's always kind of a surprise. You know, sometimes you do run into some little minor issues. It happens, but like I said, for the most part, we want to make sure that this thing turns over, it starts up, that, you know, everything runs. Actually, put on the 10 amp because it doesn't have the stator in it. Yeah, we'll use that second setting. So, yeah, right now he doesn't have the stator in just currently, so we're missing the stator. It happens. We got to find it. Either that or we're going to order him a new one. But, all right, let's get this thing fired up. Do a few, like, little bumps first, you know. Okay, do a couple more. All right, yeah, just get that oil moving. All right, let's try and fire her up. Okay, that's a good sign. It's a good start. Get her juices flowing. Check engine light. Stuck. So the throttle got hung up right there, as you could hear. And the reason being is that the throttle cables are getting kind of held up. Now, as you saw, the bike does have 23,000 miles, I believe it showed. Had 23, well, still chassis, cables, things like that, ignition coils, things like that. So the bike does have 23,000 miles on some of the components. Clearly, obviously, we've rebuilt the motor, but that does not mean that there are other components still on the bike that have 23,000 miles. And the owner did tell us the bike sat for about a year before he actually decided to do something about it. He saw our YouTube channel, and after he saw a couple of the videos of us working on these 14s, he gave us a ring and said, these are my guys. I got to send the bike over there. We got to get them to do all the work. So, and thank you, by the way. We appreciate the vote of confidence, and glad we can get this thing moving. So, but regardless, so with that throttle kind of hanging up, we're going to go ahead and take the extra steps to make sure that they're all lubricated and they're nice and fluent. If we have to replace the cables, we'll replace them. It's a cheap thing to do. especially at this point in time, versus getting the bike fully assembled with all the plastics on it and then going, oh crap, sorry bro, we didn't know, or we knew but we didn't feel like, again, solving the issue before it left. So I am extremely anal. Lewis knows this, Daryl knows this, everyone kind of knows this. So if there are issues with the bike, we call people, we call the customer, we call the client, we tell them, say, hey, look, this is what's going on. What do you want us to do? You want us to fix it or not? We're letting you know this is what's going on. So we're very, very good about doing things like that. All in all, though, very happy with that first startup. That was awesome. That was a great first startup. Considering the kind of the, not the roadblocks, but considering the kind of obstacles that we had to go through with this motor, it sounds incredible. It sounds great. Obviously, when a bike sits for a year, and again, we're the gas that we have and all these other components that we're using to start this thing up, it's been a while since this bike has started. And not only that, but there's assembly lube all inside this motor. So all on the cam caps, the cam shafts, the buckets, the bearings, the crank, all these things have assembly lube in it. And for those of you who don't know assembly lube, it's like a zinc-based lubricant, and it's we kind of joke at the old shop, we called it our strawberry jelly. It's literally like a very sticky material. It's a goopy material. Actually, we got some. Because I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell? All right, so this is one of the ones that we use. It's Permatex Ultra Slick. And let me just put a little dabble here on something. So here we have, we just have this little stator cover. So look, just to give you guys an idea, this is what, bloop, that's what it looks like. All right, so this is the strawberry jelly, you know, so it looks really kind of goopy. It's real sticky, almost like real greasy. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's got a lot of lubricant in it. Yeah, it's got a lot of lubricant in it, and it's very slick at the same time, hence the Ultra Slick. But so the assembly lube is literally there for your initial startup, and it's just to give it that added protection. So you're not starting a motor dry. That's the worst thing to do for the motor, is to start it dry. So the biggie is to pressurize the system, obviously, with the oil. And the second thing to do, well, the first thing, honestly, is to use assembly lube or mineral oil or something of that nature. So whenever you go through the service manual, they talk about mineral oil and assembly lube, things like that, that you should be using. And we do. We use the mineral oil, we use assembly lube. But then not only that, but to also pressurize your system with the oil, the engine oil that you're going to use. So this is another biggie why on the 500 mile you want to get that oil drained out. So whenever we rebuild motors, same concept as if you buy a brand new bike. 500 miles, oil change. We go through, we inspect the oil, we check it, we make sure everything looks clean, make sure everything looks normal, and then we go from there. Man, I am thrilled that that thing cranked up as clean as it did. So the engine sounds super healthy. Obviously the exhaust is loud because we don't have a muffler on it, but there's still some things that we need to do on that before we reassemble the rest of it. So again, we just wanted to fire this up, make sure that everything sounded nice and good. And again, there's no knocking, there's no major issues that we're gonna hear in the motor right away. So the next step obviously is to finish it all up, get the chain and sprockets, get the coolant all going on it, all those things. We'll actually probably end up dynoing this bike without the fairings. Again, just in case if something happens, it's gonna be very quick, very easy to get to it versus taking everything apart and getting back into the motor. So that will be soon. So be on the lookout. We'll be dynoing it. And it'll be really interesting. That's gonna be cool shit too, to see what kind of numbers this thing is gonna produce with the small modifications that we've done. So we're gonna be making another video, yes, another one, on the Gen 3 Busa. So I don't know if I really wanna tell everyone this or not, but we are gonna have another set of drop-in cams. They're a little bit more money. They are, I'm gonna say it right now. They're a little bit more money, but they make overall better power versus the Brock's super stock ones. Now, yeah, throughout the power band. But I will go over the graphs, okay? And I will show you guys. I'm gonna see if I can talk this guy into doing those cams. I'm gonna see if he's got the budget for it. I don't know if he does or not, but we'll see. But if he does, then It'll be really cool. Yeah, because he's already got, so this bike already has the exhaust and the air filter. The only thing that we were gonna do to this bike are the cams and the velocity stacks, okay? So he's already got the Brox cams, he's already got the cams, and he's got the stacks, thank you. So we're gonna see if he's interested in doing the other set of cams. We'll see. But like I said, if we can make that work, then we'll have a different kind of cam profiling, a different kind of cam shaft to test, and not only test, but to then make available to you guys. Again, there's going to be a small price difference because we are talking about a custom set that are drop-in still versus the Brock super stock ones. They are going to be a little bit cheaper, but not by much. We're talking about a couple $100, like $300 difference, which really isn't much. So when you talk about $300 difference, but you're talking about an extra 3-4 horsepower across the power band, and it's going to be a consistent 3 to 4 horsepower gain. That to me, that's pretty damn good bang for your buck. So there's mods out there, there's parts out there. I mean, think about the velocity stacks. That's $400, and you're only gaining, I mean, you are gaining quite a bit of horsepower, but it's all top end. It's not throughout the whole power band. So, you know, I think this is going to be one of those mods that, or one of those upgrades that are going to be, you know, again, desirable by some, not everybody, but some. They're going to want to pull the trigger on it. So, but we're going to get started on this bike. This is going to be what we're working on over the next few days, and we're going to be making a sole video out of this one. So you guys be on the lookout for that as well. It's going to be another interesting one. Every time we post a video, guys, even though it may seem like we're doing similar videos, they all are going to have something different inside of it. Okay, so even for all my return viewers, guys, I implore you to watch all the videos because there are differences amongst each one. It's not like a copy and paste.
Mods to their bikes. Everyone's got different tastes. So
yeah,
you may have you know, one combination on your bike that this person has, but also another combination on your bike that another person has. So.
And if it's not this bike, I do have a guy in mind that is willing to try it.
Yeah.
But it's a big but, big old padunkadunk. But he is kind of expecting it. Not for free, but he's like, hey, I'll lend you the bike if you guys want to do all your testing. So the kicker is we have a bike to test. The problem is that that's the kind of the trade-off. So we'll have to kind of talk to him about it and see what he wants to do. But so we're gonna get busy. Let's start up this bike. Let's get it rolling. So as the day was going on, we have here a ZX-10R airbox. Now, a very common mod for a lot of the roll race guys, even some of the track guys who are you know, trying to do a little extra for what they have. A biggie is an airbox mod is what they call it, and what it is inside the airbox you have a pair valve system, which there is a solenoid that is kind of bulky up underneath there, but in order to cram everything in, they make the airbox as big as they can, but that pair valve assembly is in the way. So a major mod that people do is what's called an airbox mod, which is where we cut the airbox and we make it bigger. So we make it a lot more, not a lot more, we increase the volume by about 10% or so. It's about 5 to 10% roughly. So with that being said, it increases horsepower a little bit. We've dyno tested this. We picked up about two horsepower roughly? It was about 2 horsepower all in all to the wheel. So it's nothing major, but again, when you're trying to squeeze, especially on like NA builds, and you're trying to squeeze every little horsepower out, this does kind of help with those, with that quest, if you will, or with what you're aiming to do. So between that, velocity stacks, the flapper mod, there's a ram, there's all kinds of these little air intake mods that you can do on the ZX-10R platform that kind of help pick up, I would say, ultimately, if you did all the mods, you're talking about a gain of like 5 wheel horsepower or so, 6 wheel horsepower. So I would say that's worth it if you did all of them. Now, again, some of them are a little bit more extensive in work than others, but let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. So here's the ZX-10R airbox, or rather, here's kind of what it was. Lewis had already done a cut. So there's different ways of doing this. There's different style cuts to do, but this is the most common one that we do. So regardless though, you basically all we're really doing is increasing your volume and just making the airflow a lot more fluid, if you will, a lot more fluent. So we give it better direction, a lot less turbulence. So with that being said, you get less friction. So the air is basically moving quicker and you have more volume, which relates to horsepower. So anyway, this is the beginning stages of it all. We'll show you guys kind of what it looks like in a finished product. There's different ways of doing it. Now, it's not like the cleanest and coolest mod, but again, you're gonna get the point once we're done here. So